Hey everybody, this is Jason with the Percussion, and this is our Brooklyn Bound podcast. I'm very pumped. We have a show coming up April 15th. A lot of cool things happening, and this is our first podcast of that series, and I'm talking with two of the four members of Matchstick Percussion. I'm very pumped about this conversation. We have, at least on my screen, which I think everybody will see, we have Malcolm Taylor in the bottom, and we have Ben Hausman in the upper left. I'm Jason Truding. Thanks for talking, you all.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. You all are hanging, as we were saying. You guys just did a little rehearsing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just been, we've had a week of just rehearsing, getting together in person for like the first time in a year.
Right.
So uh, it's been cool playing with these guys again.
So we're having that same experience now too, pretty much. I mean, we had these couple like little bubbles of a weekend where we, did our tests and got in a room together and did a project or something. But we've just started to rehearse again. It feels really wild, but it feels really good.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's weird is that, when we originally started, we started off in person. And then, like, as soon as we started getting serious, everything was quarantined.
Right.
And so that's why the first two projects we put out, we had to all record separately. So it's definitely an entirely different experience recording together for once. And not just like, hey, let's film this on our phone to listen back at another time, but like actually recording stuff to work on. It's cool.
Yeah, because you guys. So I want to hear about how Matchstick came together. But you're a pretty young band. You haven't been playing together. So that like you're so if So's been playing together for, I don't know, we count things differently. So let's say 20. We'll say 20 years, either 20 or 22 years. We'll say 22 years. So we have one year of quarantine and 21 in real life. You guys you're more like 1 and 1 or 2, like you're more balanced, like you've been. Is that right?
Honestly, it's been more like, so let's see, we technically founded in the fall of 2019, so pretty much close to 1 and 1 at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we started off, me, Mal, so the four of us all went to the same school. We all go to Towson, or some of us go to and some of us went to Towson University here, just north of Baltimore. And it was kind of just one of those classic moments where we were all kind of talking about, what do you want to do? And we realized we all had a similar kind of mindset of like, we want to eventually teach, but we also, like, if someone came and gave us $1 billion and said, you don't have to worry about bills for the rest of your life, what do you want to do? We were all like, we want to play in a quartet. And so then the obvious progression is, then why don't we?
Yeah.
And so we just kind of started talking, and at that point, Corey was on to his graduate studies, so no longer at Towson, but we had all known him. And so we were just kind of talking to him one day, and we were reflecting on the fact that I never got to play with him, because when I came in, he was coming out. So we knew each other, but not a lot. It's like, man, I wish we played together. And I was like, funny you should say that. We're looking to make something happen. And so it just kind of started off as, four guys just playing music in the band room. And then quarantine happened.
Yeah.
Which is how every good story starts, and then quarantine happened.
Totally. Yeah.
And it was, it was fortunate at the time that we were at the percussion ensemble, we were already playing your piece, Life is Blank. And we kind of said, hey, let's buy ourselves a copy of the piece and then send it to Corey. And then now we all have it. And so right before everything shut down, we like all got into a room and got our newspapers, and my actual card is still up there on the board.
Awesome.
All my words.
Ben, that's so wonderful.
But so we were working on that and kind of, thinking about the cool thing of that piece, as you of all people know, is it's such flexible, kind of instrumentation and all that kind of stuff. So
That's really cool. So Yeah, one of the things about this Brooklyn band, you guys are playing your own set of music, and we're also collaborating on this new piece, which has a flexibleness to it. That's something that has, So's been thinking about a bunch for sure. So when you all started to talk about playing together, like the beginnings of Matchstick, it was you wanted to play chamber music, and then what was the other impetus? What other stuff were you all talking about, Malcolm? Like, what was the, was there a certain style of music that you all are drawn to, or was it a, hang first, aesthetics come later, or?
Yeah, I think when we first started, we had a list of, and we probably still have that list, and we're adding on to it. But we have a list of like standard rap, I guess. So we first started like thinking Mallet Quartet, a lot of David Skidmore, a lot of um, a lot of rep that Corey had played at Maryland, just to like play something. And I guess as especially during like the summer of last year, I kind of was like getting into this mood where I was just like I can't play music by dead white guys, or like, just like only white guys. So it was like texted them and was like, hey, we should really like branch out and like try to like play as many different perspectives as possible, so we're not like just following like in everyone's footsteps. And they seem to enjoy that one. And it's
Enjoy that one. What's that? Enjoy that email, or
enjoy that like
yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
And then it kind of
Totally.
branched out recently from just a diverse composer based into more like equitable, flexible commission, all that stuff to try to help just make new music better, or not better, but easier to get into.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I remember having some of these conversations with you all around this new project. So not around your new project, around the flexible commissions project that So's doing, and around some other things we've been doing together. We both signed on to this NMEA pledge about kind of equity and anti-racism, and starting to have these conversations. And I remember thinking that, you know, So's old, 22 years or whatever I said, right? So like, many of those years were spent where like somehow our mission was more like, there wasn't that much percussion chamber music being played, and it was like thinking in terms of like nothing about uh social justice or just kind of big life thinking. It was more like people should know about percussion in the chamber music, but like it feels so small to talk about that. You know what I mean? It's like it was very much like this mission of like, let's get percussion music into the scene or whatever. And then, as that has happened through many groups over the, last whatever 20 years, starting to think like in bigger ways about what this music is doing and how it's working and how our scene works and why our scene looks the way it does and why there are so many dead white composers being played and living white composers being played and all the things, and talking with you all, it's like, you're developing this kind of mission statement or just idea of what you want your band to be about at the same time as you're grappling with these big thoughts. And that's like, I guess in some ways kind of scary maybe, but in some ways so awesome. I think like that, like you can kind of define what the group is in this really grounded and important way, as opposed to kind of founding it in this way and being like, oh wait, we should be thinking about important shit too. You know what I mean? Like it feels to me like you're thinking about them at the same time. um does that, yeah, do I have any of
Yeah,
that right, or am I totally left fielding it?
for sure. We're kind of, yeah, as I guess we're all kind of developing it, we're keeping everything in mind, like diversity and equitability, like all that stuff. We're trying to make sure that that's a part of what we do. And there's like, we could be like, oh, Matchstick's the light under the new music scene to help push that direction. I don't think we've ever like fully made a tagline like that, but I think that that's in the works.
It sounded like it. It sounded like it had been
That's-
poll tested. You're natural, Malcolm.
Yeah, man.
And there's so many things to talk about. I feel really scattered already with my questioning. But so maybe like I said on Brooklyn Bound, there's two. You're involved in two different sets, and the the first set that you were involved in was SOA started these flexible commission projects, and the first one we premiered a couple months ago was a Darian Thomas piece. And this next one was one that we reached out to a bunch of percussion groups about being involved in. And I thought it was so cool because we reached out to you, Malcolm. I had met both of you. Ben, I know we met at Towson as well. Malcolm, I remember so specifically because you were playing my snare drum solo and kind of did it with such awesome natural charisma. You were just you know, in this great way, speaking your lines, doing your thing in a really awesome, memorable way. And then I remember having a conversation with y'all afterwards, so I felt like, oh, reach out and see if Matchstick wants to be a part of something like this. And I remember I just got 2 emails from you in 2 minutes apart, and the first one was like, oh, I really wish we could be involved in something like this, but it's the money is hard for us right now. And then like a minute later was like, oh, that felt terrible, we really want to jump into something like this, and that just felt like the energy felt so positive about like let's commission new things. So you jumped in on this project with Kendall Williams, and we're going to be premiering that with you and 3 other groups on this Brooklyn Bound set. So yeah, tell me about that, what it's been like for you, I guess, putting this piece together, and just like what it's been like for you all to decide to jump in and commission something. This is your first commission, is that right, Ben? Is this your first?
So we'll say yes. This is our first official commission.
What was unofficial about the other commissions?
So
there was pizza involved.
Basically, we reached out to a composer buddy of one of our bandmates, Zach Wilson, like in the early ages of the ensemble. At this point, Corey was not even part of the ensemble, and said, hey, can you write something for the 3 of us? And he said, yeah, and he wrote this piece. And then quarantine happened, and then we added Corey. So it was a quarantine. I was dumb, sorry.
That was not poll tested, man. That felt like it still needs to be worked through that time.
Yeah, I'm not as good as Malcolm on the one-liners, unfortunately. But because of the circumstance, we were kind of like, hey, can you write a 4th part? And he was like, yeah, let me work on that. And then we just haven't gotten around to getting to it yet. It was a I don't know if we had signed in like an official contract with like a pay by this date, play by this date. And so
it's in the works. Your second.
It's in the works. This is our first like commission that we're working on premiering, and it's been awesome. I think I remember the exact moment I heard about it was I think I remember being in the stairway with Malcolm, and him being like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And my initial response was, "Where are we going to find the money for that?" And so I think we like pretty quickly on we're just like, we're college students, we can't make it work. And then after about, a couple minutes, we were like, wait, no, let's, at the very least, let's think of it of like, we can find the money over. It's since we knew at that point that we had about a year. I mean, that was quite a while back. Since we knew we had more time, I think our mindset was like, if we need to save up money over that time, we can do it. If we need to find fundraising ways, we can do that. If we need to get scholarships through the school, we can do that. And changed our mind.
That's awesome. I mean, one of the things that so I thought about with these commissions, so the has been like kind of like, so how can we make new things happen during this remote kind of quarantine moment, but still kind of commission and collaborate in a way that kind of works with our values. Like, it's our commissioning thing has definitely always been like, if we're going to work with somebody, we're going to really work with them. We haven't been so much like, hey, let's do this, and then somebody sends a score and we play. It hasn't been that. If anything, we've been like probably in the room more than the composer wants. I'm sure at a certain point the composer's like, okay, can I just write some music? Like chill. We don't have to talk it through so much. Um, so it's been interesting. This has been the second time where it's just been like, okay, let's find a way to just, get on Zoom when we need to and talk through stuff, share ideas, share videos and whatever. And it's been really cool. So the other groups in the mix, so is involved with Matchstick, Sandbox is involved, and then two universities, University of Akron and Bard College Conservatory. And everybody's been amazing in the project. I'll say it's been these fun Zooms where Kendall will be on the line with a bunch of folks just sharing ideas. But man, when you guys shared, so there's one version, the pieces of multiple movements, and the premiere we're gonna do walk and march to the movements. And when you guys did your Matchstick version of walk, that was amazing. Like you did like so many of the kind of funkiest, most fun versions of things. As we've been working on these things, we want them to be flexible. It's a goal of the project and the goal of Kindle's, and you guys have really pushed some really cool sides of that. So have you always wanted to do something with Matchsticks? What's the vibe there? Malcolm, I'm sure have you already, is this part of a ad campaign that you're working on? What's the
No, it's I guess it's always been kind of we're all well, I think Zach, Corey, and I have always been involved in like theatrical percussion a lot. Um, Especially Zach and I, we did a play with Through the School. That play, Through the School, Icarus at the Border, and it was
is that the
a
poster
lot
behind
of
you?
fun. Yeah, there's a little mask on it. It's kind of cool.
Nice.
But
Well, so and what was that? You were musicians, but also performing
yeah,
as actors.
we were musician percussionists on the side of the stage, but like we had those little face masks on that covered half of our face. So we were, whenever we could, we'd take advantage of that, and we'd kind of just like mess with the audience enough because they don't know who it is.
Yeah.
So it was always theatrical percussion has been in our minds, and I guess it's just not so much it's a new variant of percussion.
Yeah.
But at least the voice stuff was like just trying to think of like how out of the box we can get, and then the matchstick stuff, the matchbox, all that was all Ben's like,
Yeah,
we need to have something different.
So it's and if I do have to say, the blame should not, or not the blame, the praise should not go to me, because technically, Jason, it was your idea. I think you had just offhandedly made it as a joke in the meeting, and I looked at Malcolm afterwards, because me and Malcolm will just kind of have these chats about stuff, and it's the third thing that I responded by saying, well, guess I got to do that now.
Gotta do that. That's awesome.
The first meeting I mentioned it was early, because as a college student waking up dreaded 10 a.m. is the worst thing in the world. And then you made a joke of like, all right, Ben, can you wake up next time? And I talked to Malcolm afterwards. I can't miss a single meeting.
Oh no, man, that's I'm sorry, Ben.
And then later when we were talking about kind of our ideas for walk, and we were kind of realizing that everyone was kind of going, in a sense, kind of these macro ideas, drums and hitting stuff. And so me and Malcolm were kind of like, what can we do you'll look at us immediately and be like, oh, that's different.
Yeah.
And so I kind of at one point was like, we could do the matchbox. And so me and him just kind of sat down at the dinner table downstairs and just kind of was playing around and striking it and figuring out. And eventually it was a lovely day. And so I sat down and I said, all right, how can I make this work?
That's awesome. So like the just for context with folks listening, the piece that we're gonna premiere, we're doing a version with all 20 of us, I guess, all 5 quartets. But then each quartet will be able to play our own version of it live as well. So I imagine, I know some of the choices that we're making for this big mega version will be different than some of the choices we make live. But in that way, the instrumentation is somewhat open. I think Kendall has some ideas on what's working well, but He's written a lot of rhythmic stuff that we get to kind of make orchestrational choices on. And so, yeah, two of the movements. The first one is walk, and the next one's march, and then the third one, I think eventually there will be a third movement called run, which we're all pumped. I know so's excited for when we can, just play it as a quartet live. I think we may have a spot in May where we're gonna be able to pop out on the Princeton campus and do a little playing. So I'll be psyched to see how your version comes together live as well. But then it was really, really nice to reach out to you. Actually, I have to say, it was you guys maybe both know Shelby, our operations manager. She runs SOSI as well, and she's the kind of helm of all things. So Percussion was like, it would be really great to see if Matchbox wanted to do a set on Brooklyn Bound, just because of all the groups involved, like you guys are just kind of like starting to do your thing, and like you haven't played on Brooklyn Bound before, and it felt really awesome to reach out and see if you guys would be into it. So thanks for jumping in and saying yes, first of all, and thanks for coming up with an awesome set of music. So you're playing two pieces from what I remember. One of them I know better than the other. I know both of these composers. Both these composers have been on Brooklyn Bound before. Darian, I took your two D names, Darian Donovan Thomas, and Sarah Hennies. Sarah, we played some Sarah music in the fall. That was the first time So ever played some of her music, and there's a nice Brooklyn Bound podcast for anybody who wants to check out more of Sarah. And then Darian's written this new piece, so he's been involved a few times. So tell us about those pieces. Maybe Malcolm, let's start with you. What was your thinking on this programming?
So we kind of, the email that we got, it was either early in the morning or late at night, and as soon as we got it, we started frantically like panicking, just like trying to think of what we could play. Like being away for so long, we had like two things out, so it's like, okay, what can we play?
Yep.
And I think we had Darian's piece, Stefan Clark, all in our like music Google Drive. I asked for that score in May last year, when I saw you guys repost it. So I was like, I need to play this at some point and just have it like in my like score collection. And then I think Sarah is doing a residency at Maryland where Corey is right now.
Oh, awesome.
So Corey reached out and was like, okay, we can do lives by her, which is, at first we didn't really think it had much of a program, but then we kind of thought lives is all about like the decay of notes and like letting the notes die out one by one, and each individual note has its own life, and then leading that into Stefan Clark thematically works, and it's from what we have, it's just a powerful program of music.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know about Darian's piece, Stefan Clark. Darian was a SOSI alum and wrote that piece for us to perform at SOSI. And then, yeah, I think we had reposted it last May. I'm not sure exactly when in May it was, but either after George Floyd was murdered or in just the time of many, many Black people being murdered by police officers. But if you want to share from your point of view, just let's give some context for what this piece is. So, and I'd love to hear more about lives as well. But Ben, tell us about Stefan Clark, the piece.
So the piece is a lot, and that's the easiest way to say it. But it's beautiful and it's heart wrenching. We, Malcolm brought it to us that was actually when Malcolm first brought up the idea of like, hey, let's play pieces by minority composers. That was, I think, the one that he brought that idea to us with it. That he said, we need to do this. We need to be making important statements, kind of thing. And so, you know, I remember the first time I watched. I think Malcolm, you said that you had a very moving moment the first time you watched it. And so the piece it's for 4 players, 2 toms and voice, and basically it includes transcripts from the news, the transcript of the body cam, the transcript of Stefan's brother Stefante, and then I think the last one is the court report, correct?
Believe so.
And the piece kind of has this ongoing thing where there's kind of this idea of the 20 times that Stefan Clark was shot in his grandmother's backyard. And as the piece comes to a climax, we're all reading out these things more and more, and as we repeat it, we get louder and louder. You know, I think one of the things that we didn't fully anticipate when we were starting it is you can't really practice it everywhere. You know, there's not everywhere where you can scream at the top of your lungs, gun, 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 and then hit a tom as hard as you can before you start getting people calling. And so until we recorded it, we hadn't played it above a whisper. And so the first time we got to record it was last night. And by God, by the end of that first take, I think we were nearly all in tears. It's just having to force it out of your chest, each of those words, while you're just like putting every bit of energy into that drum and everything. It's heart-wrenching. And we realize, and we will put a big content warning on it because that is very intense. I think the thing that sticks out the most to me other than that section is Darian Thomas did a shockingly, beautifully horrifying transcription of the gunshots that we play kind of a skeleton rhythm that we play together, and then towards the end we play it all together. And it's something that it didn't really click to me until I was watching some documentaries on Stefan Clark, that I was like, oh, that's what the rhythm is.
You heard it.
And you heard it. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, that's the lick that we've been working on. And man, it just puts the piece into, you know, it puts it into a whole new light.
Yeah. Yeah, when we premiered at Soci, Darian said a couple words beforehand, and he walked out and he said, can we all count to 20, you know, with the audience, you know, and everybody counted 1, 2, you know, and when you get an audience doing anything with you in a concert, you know, everybody's kind of like, well, this is fun, 1, 2, 3, you know what I mean? Everybody's just counting. And Darren's like kind of, you know, really, I mean, such a joyful and charismatic human, and he's counting with everybody, and everybody gets to 20, you know, and he just says that's the number of times that Stefan Clark was shot. You know, this piece is basically uses just transcription. I mean, there, you know, basically everything that's said and everything that's heard in some ways is just a transcription of this moment. And setting it up like that was really powerful for me as a performer as well. And this is one of the only pieces we've played live during quarantine. We played it for a WNYC New Sounds live show, and we didn't get to play it huddled together like we usually would, because we were still, none of us were whatever vaccinated. We were all still pretty far. We played it far apart, which was kind of strange. But I remember telling him afterwards, because it was just resonating what you said. I mean, not even is it hard to practice because you're shouting those things out loud and other people hearing it, you know, safety purposes. For me, it's just like you can't really put everything into it when you're rehearsing, you know, and then you do when you're performing, and it kind of it always feels like something more intense in performance, in a way that I think is really amazing. Darian does a great a great job with writing music about something is really hard, and I think he's done it so well. Malcolm, I love what you were saying about Sarah's piece, Lives, kind of connecting to that. So from what we've only played Everything Else, I think is what it's called. I think it's a piece of hers that's getting played a lot during quarantine, because you can kind of do it from isolation in a certain way. But most of her music that I've heard live is so much about, like, like every sound having a life, or having its own space, and like dealing with how sounds combine in a room together. And So's never played any of that music. So tell me about Lives.
Yeah, so Lives is for like 1 to 5 percussionists. It's for like, I have the score next to me, so I know exactly. But crotales, glockenspiel, tubular bells, vibraphone, and xylophone. And I guess the idea is just having a mallet that produces the maximum amount of tone without the attack. So it's kind of like an easy entrance, like a nice like passive entrance. And we don't start together, we don't stop together. We let the instrument like do its thing. We play a note, we let it ring out. Right before it's about to die, we hit the next note. We just let that ring out, and we repeat that. There's, I think, within each of the parts, there's different amount of notes, but it's, it was interesting the first time we played it. We were like, okay, we might not take up 10 minutes with just this piece, but as we like actively were listening to these notes, it was like, yeah, it's gonna take a lot longer than this.
Yeah.
So
how does it work for 1 to 5? So like the instruments you listed, if you're playing it as a solo, are you playing all those instruments, or you choose one instrument from that
I
list?
believe you would choose one instrument. So
for your quartet version,
we left out xylophone.
Seems like the right choice.
Yeah, I didn't really know how that would work out, but we could have probably put that in somewhere. But all these metal sounds that just ring out forever, especially crotales and tubular bells. Those were the two that lasted the longest, I believe. So it was really cool with all like the interplay within each part, like at their own time too. So it was really interesting to play. It was a lot of fun to play, a lot of like nice listening time, really.
That's awesome. I'll need to check out that. The most memorable experience I had with their music at PASIC the last time it happened, I don't know when it was, whatever, the pre-COVID PASIC, I guess. She did a big piece where she was playing vibraphone, and then I don't know if you had heard about this performance. There's like a ton of bell ringers like around the audience, and it was a lot of solo vibraphone, just listening to this awesome beating, rolling on the vibes, and then these bells started to happen all around, and it's really special music. She teaches up at Bard where me and Eric teach, and so I'm more and more interested in working on these pieces, but very excited about it. So your set's going to start with Sarah's Lives and go into Darian's Stefan Clark. Is that right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Thanks for getting that together for Brooklyn Bound. We are pumped about that. For sure.
Thanks for having us on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not sure if you've been following along. We're 3 questions into our 5 questions. We have 2. The last 2 questions I've just been asking of everybody are one's a heavy reflection on life, and one's a nostalgic. Let's think of the pre-COVID performance time. So I don't know, I feel like we've been talking about this, the heaviness of this moment a bit already, but I mean, early on doing these podcasts during the pandemic, you know, it was like, I remember just feeling like, you know, I have two young kids, and going through this moment of like, they just can't believe they're experiencing something that I've never experienced, you know, just like the pandemic is like, you know, it's like, no, we're all dealing with this for the first time. So just this heaviness of not knowing and being separated from people, being separated from your bandmates, you know, and then a couple months into that moment, George Floyd was murdered after many other murders in that month, but over years, you know, just this culmination of so much brutality, you know, led to just a conversation in our field. I think because of the pandemic, you know, led to a conversation that was more deliberate and more just acknowledging, you know, not only do we play mostly dead white composers, but just the scene is kind of built in on the same systems that the country is built on, you know, these kind of racist systems. And so dealing with that at the same time, and then, you know, the election that happened, just so many just heavy things to deal with. And for me, I was just interested in asking everybody that I've been talking to, you know, because I've been thinking about it for myself, like, what does it mean to be an artist at this moment? You know, what's my role? What's, you know, what have I been as an artist before that I need to keep doing because it's important, and what do I need to change, you know? So I guess the question is a little bit like, you know, how has the pandemic and, you know, this bigger Black Lives Matter kind of equity, anti-racism conversation that's happening, has it or has it changed your practice? You know, how has this year been for you? And I guess, you know, you can answer it as an individual, and also in terms of Matchstick, you know, knowing that, you know, you guys kind of like got up and going for a year, and then this year has been, you know, a heavy moment dealing with these things. I would love to hear from both of you, but I'm not sure. I have lost track of who to call on first, so I'll let that be. You guys can divvy that one up.
I think Malcolm talked last. I'll go.
It could be right.
Thank
We're
you.
doing, yeah, we're doing
He
live.
he can fight me about it later. So I think if there's one thing that that COVID and then the you know the big Black Lives Matter movement kind of led me to was um, opening my ears, both like in a music sense and in a mind sense. Um, you know, one of the things that, you know, my lesson instructor at Towson has remarked on that she's glad about COVID is that it's forced us to record everything. Because I know I personally, I hated recording myself prior to COVID. I still sometimes hate recording myself, but I now have reason to. I have to. And because of that, it's made me able to kind of listen to more nuanced stuff and grow in a way that I wasn't able to. And then following, you know, the murder of George Floyd and the big Black Lives Matter movement, listening to different experiences, recognizing, you know, I have my own experiences. I've had things that have sucked in my life, but these will not equate to anything that these people have ever experienced. But their lives will always have a different experience, and often, if not most of the time, they'll have worse lives than me, and they find ways to kind of make it work and to prosper. And so I think a big part of it that is kind of pushed um, into kind of the equity and you know, our kind of mission statement of using these minority and marginalized composers is my perspective's been told 1,000 times over. I want to hear other people's perspectives and then like signal boost it. I want other people to hear these perspectives as much as I am, which is like, I honestly probably wouldn't have known about the murder of Stefan Clark if I didn't know about the piece. And in researching the piece, I did a great amount of research and listened to the people in Sacramento, listened to what kind of legislation came to it through the enforcement of body cam regulation, and I grew as a person from it. And that's, you know, the best thing you can do is grow and learn. So that's what I gained out of it.
Thanks for sharing, Ben. Cool.
Yeah. So I was hit a lot more mentally during all the Black Lives Matter things last year. I think it's because I remember when Freddie Gray was killed in Baltimore, and I remember watching it, and I believe I was watching it worrying for my older sibling that was like at Goucher at the time. But I wasn't as like upset or like angry as I was that last year. It was for sure, I was more conscious, but then also I was taking in a lot of information at once. So I guess the one thing from COVID and all this last year was just like, I've learned to like stay away from my phone and like put my phone down all the time, which is really nice. But it also made me think about what I want to do with what I like, my craft, you know, like with music. And for sure, like, I don't think, at least as a individual, the music that I want to present and create, it has to have something to do with just people who look like me, people who like, you know, representation and diversity. So it's been fun, like trying to like find pieces to play and like things that resonate with me more than just like it being like cool to look like chop heavy. Like it's, the deeper meaning means more than just, you know, visuals. Yeah, recording's been cool. Yeah.
Has it?
Yeah, it's been cool. A lot of, I thank Dr. Humphreys for being like, hey, just record and we're just going to listen to that next week, you know? It was never really came into my mind, but I'm glad that it's always, now it will always be in my practice. And I guess Matchstick related, we're now in a transition period where Zach and I are going to grad school, and then Corey is doing a performer certificate and Ben's still here. So we're kind of, it's less now like we have to manage in quarantine, and it's more, we just have to find times to get together because we always seem to come together and be able to play together. We like, the chemistry is really nice between us. It's just finding that time to play. So I think that's the next challenge. It's for sure different than if we're all in Maryland, you know. It's at least like an hour drive, 45 minutes maybe. But, you know, being a distances away, we just gotta plan it, you know.
I actually do. I can relate. There was that moment. So I had the same thing where we were in the same school. Then we kind of, some people got out, but we were still in the same town. And then Doug went to grad school hours away, and it was the first time of navigating, going from just like rehearsing kind of every day to be like, let's get together on weekends and go hard, or let's like just a new a new kind of thing. So I feel for you all, but I think the good chemistry it goes a long way to, I think, making that. I imagine you all are going to want to make that happen. So it's as long as you want to make that happen, it's you'll find a way. But so we always go out on this question of this is also, I think about it just through my lens of but just the, like, getting on stage, especially since we haven't been on stage so much lately, thinking back to the times that we were on stage, and when we would get in a van and drive around and tour, it was kind of like you would build up these stories that you had together of these things that happened on stage together, memorable concert experiences basically. But either the really wonderful kind of transcendent experiences, or, as I've said on this podcast many times before, oftentimes for it's the when shit went tragically wrong, and somehow we made it through. It's like we have a lot of those stories, like, oh, there's the flower pot story, or the tin can story, or the the laptop blowing up story, or the like, we have all those stories. So what, maybe each of you can share just some memorable, either however you want, a happy story, just some kind of memorable performance story, and I suppose it can be Matchstick related, and it could also just be a kind of personal, um I think I have this feeling, that slowly things, right, we all have this feeling, slowly things are gonna start opening up, and we're gonna get on stage again. And what, I have all the reasons that I know, I'm really excited for that. But sometimes it comes down to these stories that we tell each other as a band, that kind of, like, it forms that chemistry. So I'm gonna shoot it down to you first, Malcolm, as we go back and forth. Ben jumped in first last time.
Yeah. Thinking kind of Matchstick related, we're kind of these past rehearsals in person that we've always started like 30 minutes late. Whether it's like
Because Ben slept in, or because, what was the
100%, yeah.
No, the first time we were figuring out like audio stuff, we were figuring out how Corey's interface worked with Ben's laptop and like all that. And then yesterday it was like forgetting of like the Ben forgetting the interface for the recording. And then today I forgot my headphones for March.
Yep.
So it's good that we're like 10 minutes away from campus to like record, so we don't have to worry too much.
Yeah.
I guess it's, other than Matchstick, Corey, Zach, and I played Shostakovich, his jazz suite too. There's the bass drum part where it has the cymbal on top and the bass drum, and I always, it's super funny sometimes because it comes out of nowhere, but like using like the Italian like words for everything, you go Gran Casa Piatti, like it's like right in sync with each other. So it's always fun, like whenever I get to play that, because I only think about Gran Casa Piatti. Yeah.
So funny. That's great. Wow.
So if there's anything that I have learned from Zach, it's that, and then it's just having fun with Corey while playing that piece.
That's amazing. That's great. All right, Ben, what you got?
Oh goodness. Okay. So the two that come to my mind was one of them was formed in rehearsal and performance. One of them was out of rehearsal and performance. The one in rehearsal and performance was we were premiering a student composer at Towson's piece, and we were still very kind of early on at that point. I think Corey was in the ensemble, but this performance was just me, Zach, and Malcolm. It was just the three of us. And one of the jokes from that, there was a number of jokes from that. One of them was that we all wanted to get turtlenecks corresponding to the Wiggles.
Dude, you guys would already be making twice as much money as you are now.
I already have mine.
I forgot about that.
Because of course.
Wait, did I get this right? You said the Wiggles. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny in my house. The goal of my life has been to like never ever play anything that sounds like the Wiggles to my kids. You know, it's like it's like all about like, you know, can we listen to the Beatles? Can we, you know, can we listen to what, you know, is yeah.
The other long running joke that I think of other than Gran Casa Piatti, because that is one that we all quote, is in the fall of 2019, I started doing this stupid, horrifically atrocious fake Eastern European accent. And we had this ongoing joke that we were going to basically form ourselves around that accent and I'll speak in that accent. And so we'd come up and say, "Hello, we are Matchstick Percussion, and today we're going to play this piece for you." And then we'd start playing. And the other joke was that I was the only one who's going to speak in it, and everyone was going to act like I was just like that weird guy who tags along, but they keep me along for anyways. So they'd be like, "Yeah, I don't know what it is." It's like, "Hello, we are Matchstick Percussion. Today we're going to play this piece for you. I hope you like it very much." And so that's the other like equivalent of Gran Casa Piatti, is that I'll slip into that voice sometimes, and then we'll just yell at each other in that voice. So
are you basically saying like they have their own vibe and they're just letting you tag along? Is that the thing?
I think it's
like
more
trio quartet.
It's less that they're like that they vibe with me. It's more like I'm their little brother they can't get rid of.
That's good.
And it's like a mom said I'm allowed to play with the band kind of thing.
Yeah, you can play on the Xbox today, but we're gonna play Halo later. But we can play Viva Pinata.
But he's got to go to bed before Halo. Is that the thing?
Course.
Is that what you're implying?
Yeah, you gotta go to sleep, bud. Wake up early.
You know I won't.
All right, we very much need live performance to come back. We need some more stories. I think we need some performance stories. We're ready. Well, we are excited for April 15th. 7 p.m. I don't know why we do these shows at 7 p.m., but they happen at 7 p.m. I think we grew into like loving 7 p.m. shows when you actually got together to play shows, because you got to go get dinner and drinks just, you know, quicker by the time you load it out. But a virtual show, not quite sure why it's at 7 p.m., but it is. So you all should be there. Malcolm and Ben, I expect bandmates. Hopefully Zach and Corey will join, be up in the chat. Let us know, you know, what you're thinking. Let us know that you're there. And we're excited for your set, and we're very excited to see how this premiere of Kendall's piece comes together. So thanks for all the energy you've been putting into that, for sure.
Yeah, thanks for having us and all that.
For sure, yeah. Thanks for making time to chat. See you next Thursday. Is that the vibe? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
See you next Thursday. All right. Good to see you, Malcolm. Good to see you, Ben. Take it easy.
You too.